Okay, let's talk champagne or sparkling wine. Is champagne worth it or not? I love celebrating everything. I celebrate Tuesdays, and I always think sparkling wines are a great way to celebrate. And any time of the year. But is champagne worth it? I don't know. It may be worth it to some people, but there are options, and a lot of people don't realize the options there are. And let's learn stuff so that you can make better decisions if you want to. I'm Ellen from the blog Wine Talk with Ellen. I'm very big on having fun with wine. Don't overthink, don't overspend. And sometimes with champagne, you are overspending. But its value is relative, so everybody views things differently. But a little knowledge is going to go a long way. Certain people, a lot of people, think champagne is any sparkling wine. That is not so. Champagne, the people who make money living and working in Champagne would not like that at all. Old school, this is unscripted, which I'm pretty sure you can figure out. But I'm going to get to everything you hopefully want to know. If you don't, my editor is so glad not to be taking 42 takes, which is what we usually do, that anything I miss is going to probably show up above me, beside me, or whatever. All right. Champagne is an area in France that, in order to be called champagne, you must make sparkling wine there. The only other, there is an exception. There's a small section, California, I think it's just Corbel, that is allowed to say California champagne. Otherwise, everything else is sparkling wine. There are a lot of differences, but I find bubbles just so celebratory. So let's talk. Champagne is a region, and they have strict rules because old world, which is Europe, new world is everybody but not Europe, they have strict rules. Now, in order to make wine, you have to follow the rules in order to be called whatever district you're making it in. And in Champagne, they have a certain method of making a sparkling wine. And you could only basically use certain grapes. In most cases, it is Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and I don't know. I'm blanking on the other, but that I'm sure is going to show up behind me. Isn't that great? But because Champagne has strict rules and it's a limit, I mean, in terms of the whole world, it's a limited production, you are paying for the name Champagne. And if you're saying, well, what are my options? There are a lot. But Champagne makes all sparkling wines, except for a couple, start with a base wine, and then they put yeast and maybe sugar in to have a second fermentation. In the case of Champagne, that happens in the bottle. There are other, and it's called méthode champenoise, traditional method. Most people try to go with méthode champenoise, if they make it that way. Then, so, other ones that are made the same way as Champagne, that méthode champenoise, is a couple areas in France called, and those are crémant. But those differ because they use different grape types, so it's a little hard to know. My favorite is cava. Cava is a Spanish sparkling wine, and I find it, would I necessarily do it for a huge celebration? I don't know, I don't mean to be. But if I'm mixing it with orange juice, I remember reading an article once about, find the best champagne you can to make a mimosa. And I'm thinking, that's just stupid. I give the example that's buying a really expensive shirt and putting an orange bathrobe over it. If you're going to have a really nice champagne, have it as champagne. I'm not big on mixing it. That is better if you do a cava, which, again, is it's a Spanish sparkling wine made the same way. Somewhere in here is this. This actually happens to be one from Trader Joe's. I know that there are people who like prosecco. Prosecco is entirely different, other than the bubble part. I was once at a champagne tasting and somebody said, I overheard them say, "Oh, I really prefer Prosecco," which is fine. Everybody has different tastes. Prosecco, though, is made from a grape called Glera or something like that. I'll show it behind me, or somebody will. Somebody, my editor will. And it's made to be sort of a sweet, light thing. It is entirely different than a champagne. But some people really prefer it. There's a sweetness to it. It is not made, the secondary fermentation is made in a huge vat. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It depends what you're looking for. Now, in terms of using the method champenoise, part of the advantage of it, with the taste part of it, is that the yeast gives it sort of a bread taste, which is really nice. I mean, if you like it. I mean, certain people, hey, that woman preferred Prosecco. Then there's a bready component. It's really a delicious sparkling wine if you happen to like that style. Some champagnes are insanely expensive. Now I have in front of me Veuve Clicquot. I've always called it Veuve Clicquot, but it's Veuve. Veuve Clicquot I happen to like their style. There are more expensive versions of this that I don't know if they're worth the money. That's me. Some people may say, hey, it's a huge celebration. But make sure if you are stepping up with any of these champagnes that you may not really like it anymore than the less expensive one. Perrier Jouet happens to be a very nice medium-priced champagne that I like. I just looked up their flowered bottle that I never remember being that expensive. It's hundreds of dollars. There are other ones that they have sort of a lower level that are perfectly delicious. So you don't need to spend a fortune for champagne. You can, if that's your thing. It is not mine. There are also, each house of champagne has their own style. I talk about the time when I was pregnant with one of my kids, and I couldn't wait until I could have a drink after I was allowed to. And I decided I wanted Cristal champagne. People were raving about Cristal. Again, I'll have the spelling up there. And when I finally had it, I went, oh, I don't like this at all. Because their style of champagne was not what I liked. People love it. But you want to just know that each house of champagne has their own style, and you may want to find out about it before you spend a lot of money. Now, with champagnes, you have, because it's got Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, why I'm blank on the third, I have no idea. Glad I'm not taking my WSET test right now. Some of the champagnes are Blanc de Blanc, meaning they are all Chardonnay. Some, like this one here, which is not from Champagne, it is from California, and it is a Blanc de Noir, meaning they make a light-colored sparkling wine from only dark grapes, because the way you get color in a wine is from the skins. I happen to prefer a Blanc de Noir. Chandon Blanc de Noir was always a favorite of mine, very reasonably priced. And so you can go with the same method of making champagne without spending a fortune. And if you were going to mix it, all right, Prosecco, which I don't generally drink, but for mixing with stuff, it's so much fun because it's a good blank canvas. And now one thing no, this one was given to me, so I don't know. It isn't real champagne. Just know that if you are one time I was trying to taste a whole bunch of champagne so I knew what I wanted to buy for a party. And so I was buying little bottles so that I would know which style I liked. And somebody says, oh, wait a minute. The little bottles are not going to taste like the bigger bottles. And I'm thinking, what? There's a whole concept. They just don't. So the smaller bottles are not a good indication of what the larger bottles will taste like. So, okay, so you've got your Veuve Clicquot. You've got your Blanc de Noir here. There are different styles. I have written a lot about this on my blog and somewhere in there. And I have one called, introduction. Well, it's not introduction, but it's like, it's time for bubbles, and a whole more technical than I really want to get into here. Some people just want champagne for a big celebration. And since I'm so big on celebrations, you do you. I mean, if that makes a difference to you. I was at one tasting of champagnes that I go to a lot of tastings, the best way to know what you like is to compare wines. And I didn't like the French champagnes, but then I didn't realize that Italy has such great sparkling wines that are made in the same way. I may even have a picture of the one that I really liked. I'm obviously asking my editor to do a lot here. Now, a new thing, people seem to be talking about what type of glass to use for champagne. I have always liked the equivalent of a flute. I hear like, oh, no, don't do a flute. Well, I have a lot of flutes. I'm not switching, and they're still selling flutes. So the thing is, this I actually got as a promotional thing from Veuve Clicquot. And I think this is like the new shape. I don't know, like a tulip. If you really want to get technical, compare. Try a bunch of different glasses. You can have, maybe this is more like it. Or hey, red cup, solo cup. I wouldn't recommend it for a more expensive one, but if you really, that's all you have fun with it. Now, I have a store as part of my blog that sell printables, because the best way to really know what you like is to compare wines. And I have one in there for champagnes. So if you want, get together a whole bunch, not champagne, sparkling wines. Get together a whole bunch of sparkling wines or champagnes. Ask friends to bring them. Do it yourself. You're going to end up with a lot of champagne. And you line up and you decide which ones you like better. Some people, if you're going to do it all different types, some people may like prosecco better. If you're going to do all sparkling wines or champagnes, I know somebody who did it and their favorite was a Kirkland champagne. I've never had that one because we don't have Kirkland wines where I live. But I've heard great things about it. You know, don't stand on ceremony with price. If you like it, it's worth it. Same even if you want to go splurge on a more expensive champagne. So I also offer on my blog a ultimate guide, and within my ultimate guide have 8 little guides that one of them is about sparkling wines and telling you all the technical differences, should that be your thing, because that would really be boring if I got really into all the yeasts and all the things like that. But you may want to know, because a little knowledge goes a long way. You don't want to be spending money you don't have to, but you do want to be having fun with wine. And I recommend just trying them. The best way to know what you like is to try certain ones and go, wait, I like that flavor, but not this flavor. But always be looking for things to celebrate. Wine should be bringing you joy. It should be bringing people together. And I actually was going to open a bottle here, but I didn't, because if I struggled with it, it would be half the video. I do want to warn people that you do not want to kill somebody when you open these. There's a lot of pressure in these bottles, and having somebody injured when you open them is just not cool at all. It really ruins an evening. So normally I do have a wine to drink, and at which point I do not today because I didn't open one of these. I usually do it sort of as a security blanket when I'm doing this. But we're going to pretend. No, I prefer this glass. So I'm going to, at this point, say subscribe to the, never mind, get on the email list for the blog, because if you get on the email list, you get all the discounts in the store. And subscribe to my channel, because this is fun stuff. I mean, wine is fun. And let's keep this fun going. Pretend there's something in here. Cheers.